If you're struggling in FC24 after the new update, you're not alone. There are a lot of people that are struggling to adapt to some of the changes that EA have made, because a lot of the time when EA make a minor update, quite a lot changes. So if this game feels a little bit different for you, I have got some tactics that might be able to help you out. And with all that aside, guys, let's get right into the video. If you guys want coins for FC24, make sure you check out MMOEXP.com. Their link is down in the description. They're very fast, they're very cheap, they're very reliable, and if you use my code Rema, you can get yourself a lovely 5% discount. Alright then, guys, so starting off with the tactics for the defensive style, we just have this on balance. Now the reason I have this on balanced is because it does give you the best control over your defense. So when you want to press your opponent and be aggressive, you can do that, and then when you want to be a little bit more passive, you can also drop back. So it's really nice and balanced, and when we want to press, we have another option for that, which I will get onto in a moment, which is why we don't even need to use any pressure tactics. Moving on to the defensive width, guys, I have this on 43. This is just because I don't want my defense to be too wide, and I also don't want it to be too narrow. So this is a nice compact width, but we're still able to cover the wider areas if we need to. Now moving on to the depth, this is what I was on about when it came to the pressure tactics. On new gen consoles, when you have the depth on 71 or over, you get this automatic overload ball side and press from the AI. Very much limits your opponent's attack. It stops them being able to make threatening runs because it completely breaks their AI. It just makes it a lot easier to defend, and it is something that should be patched in the future, but right now it is still very good. If you don't want to use this, however, you can lower this to something else, and I do suggest lowering it if you are on old gen, because the 71 depth thing is new gen exclusive. Now moving on to the build-up play, guys, I have this on balanced. This is because it allows you to pick and choose when and where you use each form of build-up. So sometimes you want to build up quickly, you can do that, and then other times you want to build up a little bit slower, you can also do that. So very, very effective. For chance creation, I have this on direct passing. This is because it's the only setting which makes your attackers move in the correct ways. Direct passing allows your strikers more fluid movements. It also makes your attackers bunch up against the opposition defenders, meaning it's very easy to isolate a defender and take him on in a 1v1. Direct passing is a crucial tactic in my opinion. Now moving on to the attacking width, I just have this on 46. This is because I don't want my team to be too narrow to the point where everybody is glued together, because that's not good. And I also don't want them to have crazy width because it makes it feel more like a 4-3-3. So I don't want that either. This is really nice and balanced where it's not too narrow or too wide. Moving on to players in box, guys, I have this on 6. This is so I can get a few players into the penalty box to finish off those chances, but we don't overcommit everybody on our team to the point where if we lose out on possession, we're going to get counter-attacked. As for the corners and free kicks, guys, I leave these both on 2, but you have a lot of freedom. You can pretty much pick whatever you want here. Sorry to interrupt the video, guys, but I have noticed around 90% of you that watch the content are not subscribed. So if you are finding any of these videos helpful, please be sure to hit that subscribe button, as it does help me out massively. Also, don't forget to drop the video a like as well. And with all that aside, guys, let's get back to the video. Now, moving on to the player instructions, guys. On my striker, I like to have him on stay central and get in behind. This is so he always stays in the central positions where the striker should be. We always want him to be there to finish off the chances. We don't want him drifting out wide because we don't need him to do that. By having him on stay central, he will always be in the correct position. I also like to have him on get in behind by default, because it means he will make those dangerous runs in behind and get as many chances as possible. If I'm playing against an opponent I'm struggling at in build up, I will put him on mixed attack. This is just so we can get a bit more out of him, but by default, get in behind works fine. Now moving on to the right forward, guys, I have him on stay central and get in behind. This is kind of like for the same reason as the striker. We don't want this player drifting out too wide because it will make him feel more like a winger in a 4-3-3, which is not what this formation's about a lot of the time. So we want him to stay central in those more narrow areas to cause as many problems as possible. We also have this player on get in behind, so like the striker, he does use his pace to get in behind and cause a lot of trouble to the opposition defense. Now moving on to the left forward, guys, very important, but we put him on comeback on defense. Now this will make the team defend in a 4-4-2 shape. Now I see a lot of people asking why we do this, and the reason for it is the 4-4-2 is one of the best defensive shapes in the game. When you defend as a 4-4-2, your midfield four and the back four are able to cover both the central areas and the wide areas simultaneously, so it's very difficult for an opponent to break you down. Just by having this extra man in midfield when we don't have the ball makes a massive difference, basically. So this left forward on comeback on defense will make him defend as a left mid in the 4-4-2 shape, if that makes sense. And yeah, moving on to the left centre mid, guys, I use like a more box-to-box style player, so I have him on balanced attack and cover centre. This is so he does have a bit of freedom in going forward and he will still defend. We don't want to restrict a box-to-box player all that much because we want them to do a bit of everything. We also have him on cover centre, so he does defend as the left centre mid in the 4-4-2 shape. My apologies, I did forget the middle centre mid when recording this video, so the instructions for this player are stay back while attacking and cover centre. This is because he's a more defensive minded player in my team, almost like a CDM, so we don't want this player flying forward all the time, and then the cover and centre instruction is so he does defend as the right centre mid in the 4-4-2 shape. So sorry about forgetting that, guys. But yeah. Now for the right centre mid, guys, the most important instruction we have is cover wing. Now I don't actually use a defensive minded player in this position. I actually use an attacker in Nkunku, and this is because of what we just spoke about, where the team will defend in a 4-4-2. So this player here in the right centre mid spot with this cover wing instruction will actually defend as a right mid, which means it's not super important to have a player with crazy good defensive stats, which is why we're able to use a more offensive player here. As long as you have this cover wing instruction on, he will be the right mid when we don't have the ball. Because he's an attacker, we also have him on get forward and get into the box across, so he will contribute going forward. Moving on to the fullbacks, guys, on one of them, your more attacking one, I suggest balanced overlap. This is so you can have a player which will actually add extra width to the team, because like I said, this formation can be very narrow and that's its purpose, but sometimes you might want a wider option, which is why it's useful to have one of these fullbacks on balanced overlap to give you that wider option and extra width. For the other fullback, we have him on stay back and overlap. This is so we always have at least 3 defenders back at a time, but when we send him on a run forward, he'll make the overlapping runs to add that extra width. As for the centre backs, guys, and the goalkeeper, default settings, and I don't touch them. But yeah, they're my tactics and instructions for the 4-3-2-1. If you have enjoyed, please be sure to drop this a like, sub to the channel if you are new, and don't forget to turn on notifications. And with all that aside, guys, I hope you have a fantastic rest of your day, and I will catch you all in the next video. Peace out. If you're still here at the end of the video, as mentioned at the start of the video, if you would like those cheap and reliable FC coins, make sure you do check out EAFC because they are very fast and they are very reliable. And if you do use my code Rema, you will get that 5% off. So it benefits you as you get a cheaper order, and it also benefits me as it's good for my stats on the site. So yeah, I just thought I'd remind you guys about that if you are looking to improve your team without gambling on yeah, FC 24. Have a good day, guys.